Hello, I'm Edward October. Over the years, I've narrated more ghost stories, horror shows, and creepypastas than I can count. And yet, the crimes discussed on our true crime podcast managed to scare the shit out of me. This program is not suitable for children or the faint of heart. If you are such a person, go ahead and switch off this podcast. Listen to something else. Are you still with us? Well, we've warned you.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, Cam. How are ya?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well also.
Well, look at that. It's magic.
I know. It's magic. It's, what is this? It's the week after I came back from vacation, and I'm sure I had a great time.
I bet you had I bet you're tired.
I am so tired.
Suntan, sunburn, maybe? I don't know.
Actually, we're recording this, like the beginning of June, so, you know.
Yeah.
We're talking to you.
We're actually ahead of schedule.
Yeah, believe it or not.
Never happens.
So,
Never happens.
So anyway, what you got for us today?
Oh boy, do I have a tail.
Humdinger, right?
Tail. This is a doozy. This is a
It's a step below a humdinger, or is it?
No. This is either humdinger level or even maybe one up, because it's like here's the thing. Here's the question I got for you and many of our friends out there. Isn't it weird when somebody can go through life reasonably sane and normal, like nothing, and then something happens and they just crack, and then you look back and think that there had to be signs, right?
Yeah.
Like they're just, so this is, you just gotta stay with me. This has a little
sign everywhere, a sign. Yep.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah.
I'll stay with you. I think we all will stay with you, or we'll try.
When you and I were talking about this, and I didn't tell you what it is because we never know what each other's story is, but I said it reminds me of the old Sir Walter Scott quote, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave.
When first we practice to deceive."
Yeah, there is so much going on with this, and just when you think you got it figured out, new twist, and take a right, and take a left.
Ooh,
yeah,
I'm excited. All right, start it. Let's go.
Here we go. It is March 17th, 1997, and the day is winding down for Killaloe, Ontario, Police Superintendent Ken Leppert. As he is leaving the Ontario Provincial Police Department, he is greeted by a 39-year-old woman named Nancy Filmore. The visibly upset woman demands to speak to a detective. As the two sit down to talk, Nancy tells the detective that she is there to talk about Cherrylle Dell. She blasts into name-calling. I cut all this out, but she called her every name in the book, and it's all directed at the 42-year-old widow, Cherrylle, and mother of three. Now, Nancy goes on to say that Cherrylle has been opening accounts of credit under fake names, reporting fake burglaries to gain the insurance money. Now, when asked if she could go prove her allegations, Nancy said no. Well, and that leaves the detective with not much to go on. He takes her statement and files it away for now. When asked how she knows Cherrylle, Nancy said they used to date, but the relationship ended, and not on a good note. Nancy adds that she is suing Cherrylle, claiming that her ex-lover stole money and clothing, among other items, from her. Now, the detective is wondering if this is just a scorned lover out for revenge, but this, my friend, was only the beginning. As Nancy is telling the detective this long, detailed story, Nancy messes up, and she kind of told a little too much. You know, when you start to say something and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. That's what she did. So she couldn't really go back. The detective knew something else was there, but she wouldn't talk. So they know there's more to the story. But is it just revenge or a jilted lover? Nancy is clearly scared of implicating herself. But in what and why? Dun, dun, dun. Nancy and Cherrylle met in the spring of 1995. Cherrylle was still married at this point, but she had separated from her husband, Scott, several years earlier. The relationship moves so quickly that Nancy moves in with Cherrylle just 4 months after meeting. The couple would purchase a home together, with Nancy putting a hefty down payment on the residence for the couple. The couple were so deeply in love, but there's just one problem, and that was that Nancy was not the only one in love with Cherrylle. Her ex-husband, Scott, was still trying to get back with her. Scott and Cherrylle married young. Scott was about 20 years old and Cherrylle was just 17. The two had started dating a couple years earlier. I mean, honestly, both were babies. Mm-hmm. Scott lives nearby and, the couple share 3 children together. So he was a regular feature in all their lives. This did not set well with Nancy and it brought a lot of stress into all their lives. Scott was pretty open that he wanted his wife back and he was willing to do what it took to get her back into his life. The couple had a tumultuous relationship and had broken up, gotten back together, broken up, gotten back together, several times. You know how that goes.
Yep.
Scott was thinking that this was just another break and they would end up back together again soon. During this time, Scott received some devastating news. He was diagnosed with throat cancer. The prognosis was not good for Scott. And honestly, they were all preparing for the worst. Miraculously, after almost a year-long battle with cancer, he was in remission. Now, mind you, all the doctors pretty much said this was terminal, it was fatal, he wasn't going to live. And he did. He beat it. He went into remission. Perhaps it was just the Christmas spirit, but Cherrylle and Nancy invited Scott over to spend the holiday with them. But that's not all that changed. Seems Cherrylle had changed her mind about permanently separating from Scott, and she wants to leave Nancy and make the family whole again. Scott, of course, is thrilled. On the evening of December 28th, 1995, Scott is at home where he is relaxing and dreaming of the future. This was, after they had spent the holiday together, the Christmas time together. The couple had been separated almost 4 years at this point, but Scott was hopeful that his 21-year marriage would continue. Scott calls his wife, Cherrylle, to reminisce while drinking some wine. As the music plays in the background, Scott tells Cherrylle he cannot wait to get back together. The couple would talk on the phone. You ready? For nearly 9 hours.
Wow.
As Scott would finish the bottle of wine while he scribbled notes on paper at his desk. By 4 a.m., Scott would end the phone call and go to bed. At this point, he was slurring. Before ending the call with his wife, he told her that he had a vision, and in that vision, she was an angel. The following day, Scott had plans with a friend, but he failed to show up. Knowing this is not like him, his friend goes to his house to check on him. She finds the house unlocked, and she immediately knows something's wrong. Once inside, she finds an empty wine bottle and a glass alongside those notes that Scott had scribbled down. The notes seemed to be notes written to Cherrylle, but some were really difficult to read or even decipher. So, for instance, one note said, "I feel like holding you close to me like never before. I feel like making love to you. I feel like all of the bad stuff would go away. What do you think was going to happen if I drank a bottle of wine listening to music we used to listen to? I'm going to think about you and me together. I can't help it. I don't want to want you. I don't want to be rejected. If we don't get back together, maybe we shouldn't see each other very much." Little telling. Okay. It becomes clear from these writings that Cherrylle had told Scott that they would not be getting back together, and it was finally over. Scott's friend makes her way through the house to Scott's bedroom, where she finds him lifeless on the floor. She tried to revive him, but it was too late. Investigators arrive at the home and immediately believe that Scott killed himself. Their suspicions were right. The wine bottle was tested, and it was determined to have ethylene glycol, better known as antifreeze, in it. An autopsy would prove that Scott ingested antifreeze with his wine. The reality of breaking up with the love of his life was just too much, investigators believed. Scott is laid to rest, leaving 3 children without a father.
So police at this point think that Scott killed himself by drinking antifreeze?
Yeah. Because she...
Does that happen often? Do people kill themselves by drinking antifreeze?
That's a good point, Jen. I probably should have looked that up, but I would think not.
I just don't think so either.
I think it's a pretty painful way to go, too. I don't think it's...
I wouldn't think that... Yeah, I don't know. But I guess we'll continue on with the case and see what's going on.
Let's see what happens, right? Mm-hmm. So Nancy and Cherrylle are finally together and living their best life after Scott passed. For about a year, that is. Mm-hmm. Seems that Cherrylle is fickle when it comes to love, Jen. Cherrylle decides to kick Nancy out of the house that they bought together, that Nancy put the down payment on, and move in her new love interest, a man by the name of Chris Mickle. Since Nancy has been kicked out of the home she shared with Cherrylle, she asked the detective to accompany her to the home to get back her things. Seems that Cherrylle was like hogging all the stuff, not giving it back to her, not to mention that Nancy is the one that put the down payment for the house. At this point, I'm sure the detective is just as nosy as you and me, and is like, heck yeah, I'll come with you because I got to see what's going on here, because there's a lot going on here. So they make a plan to meet up the following day at the residence. Detective Leppert knocks on the door with Nancy standing by him. Cherrylle answers the door and is immediately upset seeing Nancy. Both the women are claiming that the other one's crazy, while the detective just tries to get Cherrylle to bring Nancy's items to them, and they'll leave. Cherrylle finally agrees and tosses a black trash bag at Nancy. Nancy checks inside the bag, and instead of finding her clothes and other things she thought she left behind, she finds a bag of trash, like literally trash. It was rotten food, empty cans, food scraps. It was trash. Devastated and probably not thinking clearly, Nancy blurts out right then and there to the detective, Cherrylle's husband did not kill himself. Cherrylle killed him. And this is in front of Cherrylle, by the way. Cherrylle once again screams that Nancy's crazy and kicks both of them off her property. With what I can only imagine is a detective with his mouth on the ground, he tells Nancy, yeah, you're going to have to come into the station for a little chat. This just went from a fraud investigation to a murder investigation. Nancy comes into the station and she has quite the tale to tell. Nancy tells officers that Cherrylle detested Scott, and Cherrylle was tired of dealing with him. She wanted his farmhouse, and she wanted full custody of the children. She had filed for divorce from him, but when Scott was diagnosed with cancer, she saw a way to get all that she's ever wanted. But she would have to remain married to him to collect after his death from cancer. You know, because when you're married, you get it all.
Exactly.
If you're divorced, you're not going to get it.
Exactly.
So she, of course, put the divorce on hold. She would lure him back into her web, telling him that they would get back together, all while she was just waiting for him to die. So when Scott beat the odds and did not die from cancer like everyone, including the doctors, had thought, she came up with another plan. When Scott came to Cherrylle and Nancy's house to celebrate the holidays, Cherrylle had a special gift for Scott, Jen. It's a special gift.
Bottle of antifreeze? Dressed up as Cabernet? Yeah.
There you go. It is a bottle of wine she made especially for him.
She did. Homemade stuff.
Homemade stuff. She told him to go home, put on the songs that they loved together, and then call her so that they could discuss the future about getting back together. She told him.
Sorry.
Sorry. That's okay. I know. This is a lot, man. This is only half of it. Just wait. She told him to write down notes about them as a couple and what they had to look forward to when they got back together. I mean, she's pretty smart in that way. So those are the notes that, he had jotted down when they were on the phone. Detectives don't know quite what to think, so they want to know how Nancy knows all these details. How do you know these specifics? She tells them that, she was listening in on that last phone call. She heard it all.
For 9 hours she listened in, huh? That's commitment.
Sure is. She said when he started slurring, she knew the poison was taking effect, and Cherrylle went through with her evil plan. To hear somebody literally dying.
So Nancy knew that Cherrylle poisoned the bottle?
Yep. And that's where this next part goes. The reality of what took place sent Nancy into tears as she realized she is an accomplice to murder. I watched her interrogation interview, whatever. And she literally started crying. And she said she just didn't know what happened to Scott. She helped plan it. And then her quote was, "I'm going to have to live with this for the rest of my life."
Yeah.
There you are. Nancy tells the detectives exactly what happened. On that fateful December day, Nancy and Cherrylle decided that they would put antifreeze into wine. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, how could Scott not taste it, right? I mean, it's antifreeze. It's sweet, and it's not, wine has a very distinct taste.
Yeah, mix it in with a bottle of Mad Dog. That's just as nasty, I'm sure. So the taste wouldn't matter.
I would hope adults don't drink Mad Dog. Maybe they do.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Jen. Scott's cancer treatments wreaked havoc on his body and left him without the sense of taste. The women knew this, and they used it to their advantage. Although you'd still have to think that it looked funny, but maybe he didn't. I don't know. Because antifreeze is like that.
But it was homemade wine, right?
Yeah, chartreuse green. It's still, antifreeze has that distinct color. It's not wine colored.
Maybe if they claimed it was homemade, that it just excused the color, but I don't know.
As Cherrylle is making her deadly concoction, Nancy begins to balk. Cherrylle then yells at her, telling her to shut up. And then Cherrylle implied, hey, you wouldn't want people to see you as the scorned lover that killed my husband.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Nancy then goes along with the plan. At this point, the detectives are not sure what to believe. Perhaps Nancy's the vengeful one, and she's the one that killed Scott to have Cherrylle to herself. The officers will want to know what gives. Why is she confessing to this crime now, after a year later, and with the arrival of Cherylle's new love? I mean, that just seems a little too convenient, a little scorned lover, to be honest. That is until Nancy tells the detectives that Scott was both physically as well as sexually abusive to not only Cherrylle, but the 3 children as well.
Oh.
So Nancy she didn't like him. She hated him. She despised him because he was abusive to them.
But was that true, or was she making stuff up?
Or that is what Cherrylle told Nancy. Mm-hmm. Nancy has now come to believe that it was just one big, giant lie to get her to comply with Cherylle's murder plan. On March 21st, 1997, Detective Leppert and Detective Dwayne Sears dive into the case. Detectives have to go back to the beginning, and they have to start by reopening the death of Scott Dell. They need to rule it either a murder, and if so, find it why it's a murder, or they need to find out if he actually did kill himself. They start with digging into the backgrounds of both women. They learn that Nancy did not have much in her background to indicate that she was a criminal or, had a criminal background. However, they did find a little interesting tidbit on Cherrylle. Seems like years earlier, 1993 to be exact, there was a judgment against her. A judge had determined that Cherrylle lied to the courts about Scott being an abuser and cleared Scott of all charges. So this was her shtick. That's what she did earlier. Cherrylle had fabricated abuse lies much earlier, and Scott still stood by her. But as we know, a liar does not mean a killer.
No.
Usually. The investigation is well underway when a phone call comes into the police station. It is a hysterical Cherrylle Dell claiming that she's in fear for her life from Nancy. The detectives race to Cherylle's home, and she's basically waiting outside for them. She's hysterical, right? She explains that Nancy's trying to kill her due to the oil spot, Jen. It's an oil spot.
The oil spot? Like from the car? Oil spot on the driveway?
Well, it's on her front porch.
Oh.
Yeah, that's correct. There's a spot of oil on her front porch, and she's positive that Nancy put it there in an attempt to set fire to her home and kill her. Huh. And when I say spot, the spot's it's not even that big.
So are you saying this might have been an overreaction?
Just stay with me here. Stay with me. Okay. This is where we start getting on the roller coaster here. As the detectives are standing there, she tells them that there's more. You got to know it's not just this. She's after me. She informs them that Nancy had stolen credit cards, and her credit cards, by the way, and were using it. She said that Nancy had taken out a bunch of money, and so much so that she had to freeze the account. In what I can only describe as a bizarre maneuver, after doing all this and seeing the detectives just standing there, Cherylle's demeanor changes, shall we say. She went from being panicked and frantic to seductive. She tells the detective, out of all this, that, hey, the neighbors have been asking me who the hot detective is that keeps coming around here.
The hot detective?
Not making that up. Oh. Becoming clear that Nancy seems like the more trustworthy one at this point, and there's still a lot of details to clear up. This becomes even clearer when the detectives get back to check on the bank and the accounts and all that, and they learned that, no, there was no fraudulent withdrawals. The account wasn't even frozen. She lied to the detectives. So easy. So they have to wonder, what else is she lying about? The officers need to talk to Scott's good friend who found him that day. Her name is Gay, and she is more than happy to assist in the investigation. She initially thought that Scott did kill himself, but she has this nagging fear that maybe that's not the case. Gay tells them that she was really close to Scott and his kids, but that when Nancy entered the picture, something was just not right, especially with Cherrylle. Check this out. This fear turned into a reality just a few months later. Gay tells the detectives that one night she was sound asleep in her home and she woke up. Gay tells them that one night she was sound asleep in her home and she woke up to flames all around her. She barely made it out of her house alive. When she did, she found a note. Or I guess it wouldn't be a note so much as a threat. It told her to stay away from Scott's kids or else. Yeah. Gay's house was burnt to the ground. And Gay, she hightailed it out of town and moved where basically she's in hiding from Cherrylle and Nancy.
Wow.
Yeah, she had nothing left. Yeah.
She didn't notice the oil spill on our front porch then.
Well, you're going to notice a little fire. You're going to notice the repetition of the theme of fire here in a minute. So, yeah. So next, the detectives meet with the responding officer on the scene the night of Scott's death. The officer tells them that when he interviewed Cherrylle, she told him that she was on the phone with him the night before, basically because she felt sorry for him, Jen. She said Scott was upset and apologizing about abusing her and the kids, but that she forgave him. She then tells the officer why she thinks Scott took his own life. Scott had confided in her that the cancer was back, and he was despondent. He was devastated. Cherrylle added that Scott once weighed 250 pounds back when he was healthy, and due to the cancer, he was down to just a mere 130.
Oh, poor guy.
Now, it's a bit of a weird note to detail and tell the officer, but just store that away in your little brain. We're going to circle back to that. They would learn that Scott was, in fact, well over 130 pounds at the time of his death, so this made that statement even stranger. Detectives pull Scott's medical records, and they learn something. Something I think you already know is coming, Jen. You want to guess what that is? His medical records when he died?
It wasn't him.
No, that was last week's episode or 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Well,
yeah.
You never know.
Scott was still cancer-free at the time of his death. He didn't have cancer. He didn't have cancer. She lied. That's another lie. He did not have cancer. So if things are not looking too good for Cherrylle, it's about to go from bad to worse. Investigators learned that just weeks prior to Scott's death, a strange call came into the, you ready? Ottawa Poison Control Center. A woman called to be claiming that her name was Mrs. Balding and tells the operator that she believes her little brother ingested some antifreeze.
Oh.
When asked how much he drank, she said she thought about maybe 2 cups. And then she added, hey, just maybe, so this may or may not help you. He weighed about 130 pounds.
That's a coincidence.
Look, Quinky didn't come.
Mm-hmm.
The woman then asked if he will die, and the nurse informed her that much antifreeze could possibly be deadly and that she should immediately take him to the nearest hospital, ASAP. About an hour later, as is their practice, the nurse from the poison call center called the local hospital to check on the status of the boy and learned that no one had come to the ER with that name or that condition. So the detectives pulled the call records to verify that a call was made, but they're going to have to go through this by hand. This was back in, the late 90s. So they're going to have to go through literally by hand. It's not kept on a computer. It's going to take a long, long time. Nancy Filmore will need to testify to all that she has shared, and she agrees to do so. But the authorities have to keep her safe until that time. You see what's coming here. It was the summer of 1997. Nancy's at home and she hears glass shatter. She goes to investigate and she finds a man with a baseball bat outside of her home. He is screaming at her to come outside and get what she deserves. She calls the police and they arrive to find Chris Nickel, Cherrylle's boyfriend, outside with a bat still in hand. Chris is arrested and charged with harassment and mischief and is taken in. Detectives advise her that they feel Cherrylle is dangerous and that it would be best if Nancy left town for a bit, just a little while. Nancy's a little hard-headed. She's a little stubborn. She's adamant that she is not going anywhere until her court case is settled with Cherrylle and she gets her money and all her things back. Nancy would share with family and friends that she was in fear constantly. She was worried about Cherrylle coming to get her, harm her. But you know what? She would not leave. She would not let Cherrylle win. She would say this stuff to everybody. And let me go back here and say that the area that they lived in, tiny. It's like somewhere between 500 and 700 people. It's a little village of Ottawa, right? So it's tiny. Everybody knows everybody. It's a small town. They notice everything. So you got to keep that in mind when Nancy is going around being very verbal about all of this stuff going on. It is during this time that investigators learn that Cherrylle has changed her ways. Her boyfriend, Chris Mickle, he's in jail. And she started hanging out with a group of young people. That really probably someone her age should not. She's often having them over, plying them with drinks and weed. For one of these young men, Jen, free drinks are not the only thing on the menu. 16-year-old Brent Crawford has caught Cherylle's eye, and he was about to be caught in her web. 16, mind you. You see, Brent used to work at the same place that Nancy worked at. They all worked together. Little too coincidental, I think, but, we'll get back to him in a bit. Weeks later, that phone call log that the detectives had requested for poison control, guess what? They found it. They did, Jen. They found it December 5th, 1995. Less than a month before Scott was found dead. They now have more than Nancy's words, because that's really all they had. It was just a scorned lover. They have proof that Cherrylle has premeditated her husband's murder with a phone call to determine how much antifreeze would kill him. They are ready to make an arrest, but their greatest fears are about to come true. A late-night phone call comes into Detective Leppert after midnight on August 20th from another detective at the police station. There is a raging house fire across town, and the home belongs to none other than Nancy Filmore. Inside the burnt-out living room, they find a body. It is Nancy Filmore. An autopsy would reveal the cause of her death to be carbon monoxide poisoning, from the breathing in smoke. The key witness for the case against Cherrylle Filmore is gone, and the murder investigation of one person just became an investigation of two, with Cherrylle Filmore at the center of both. The detectives need to find this new little friend group she's got going on and see what they have to say. Well, now, mind you, these are like 16, 17-year-old kids, so it doesn't take too long because, they're two young men. They're 16, 17. And they tell the officers that Brent had been bragging about setting Nancy's house on fire. And honestly, it kind of freaked him out. They needed to talk to Brent in person, but that would be difficult since he decided to go on a little vacation by hitchhiking through Canada. They needed a plan, and they needed it quickly. This is pretty ingenious, I think. By working with another jurisdiction in Canada, they learned that he is in northern Ontario. They come up with a sting to nail him. Now, an undercover detective will pose as a truck driver who will pick up Brent and offer him an offer that he can't refuse. Under this ruse, which is illegal in America, by the way, due to entrapment, but it's very illegal in Canada for the most part, Brent would be recorded as a trap is set and he will walk right into it. It worked like this. After the driver picks Brent up, they do a little small talk, a little get to know you, all that stuff, and then they get into the deal. The undercover detective tells Brent that he has a brother who is looking for an employee that will do a bit of work for him, and he's offering a big payday. But the job's not exactly legal. It's not all above board, if you know what I'm saying. Brent takes the bait, because he's 16, and says he'll do it. As the detective visibly shows doubt, doing that, I don't know, man. Brent could do the job. Brent offers proof. He tells the detective that he's committed murder. I've committed murder, and you know what? I didn't even get caught. That's how good I am. And then he launches into how he did it. So he full-on told this truck driver that you're driving in the car with. I don't even know what to say about that. Just like his 16-year-old bragging about how good of a baseball player he is, he tells the undercover driver exactly what happened the night Nancy died. On August 19th, just after 10 p.m., with a knife in hand, Brent breaks into Nancy's home and finds her sleeping on the couch. Noticing that Nancy had fallen asleep with a few candles burning, he got a new idea. Why would I slice her throat or stab her if I have this?
Set things on fire.
That's right. He's going to use the candle to start a fire and leave her to die in the fire. No evidence left behind would mean no crime. Little did this 16-year-old in love with a master manipulator know that police would quickly deem this fire arson and this death murder. After Brent Crawford is arrested for Nancy's murder, he tells them that he did it all for love, Jen. Did it for love.
For love?
Love. He tells them that Cherrylle told the young man that Nancy was trying to frame her for her husband's death, and that if he wanted them to be together forever, Brent had to get rid of her.
Pamela Smart, is that you?
Right. Cherrylle didn't want to go to prison. The two of them couldn't be together forever.
Who wants to go to prison? If you don't want to go to prison, you don't kill.
But here's the best part. If you can take care of this Nancy problem, I'm going to toss in this really cheap motorcycle. I'm going to give it to you to sweeten the deal. Nice. And I think that motorcycle was between $300 and $500. That's it. He's 16. Poor guy. Brett Crawford was charged and convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. Finally, on December 28th, 1997, 2 years to the day of poisoning Scott, justice came calling to Cherrylle. On February 1st, 2001, she is found guilty of first-degree murder of Scott Dell and sentenced to life in prison. And that is the story of some twisted stuff, let me tell you.
Man.
And say, like,
glad she's finally caught, though. My gosh.
She stayed so... And this little town is 700 people. And, you know, from what it said, that she was very eccentric. That's what the detective said. Like, she has bright red hair. Nothing wrong with red hair people. But very, like, just out there. But she seemed so, I hate to say normal, but normal. You know, all those years. And then just kind of...
cracked at the very end.
She decided she wanted Scott's money. She didn't want anything to do with them. So there's, like, so many questions I have. Like, did she even use Nancy? Did she...
Did she use Nancy? It sounds like she did. Or maybe they conspired together. Mm-hmm. Or maybe Nancy wanted... I don't know.
I don't know either. It's crazy.
Unreal. It is crazy.
And then those poor 3 kids, you know?
Right.
And
they're left without anyone.
Yeah, fairly young when this all happened,
but still, to lose your father to your mom killing him, I mean, that's...
But how could somebody in that small little town think that, oh, I'm never going to be caught? What?
Well, they might not think that the police department of town of 700 is going to catch on to that thing.
Pick off my ex-husband, and I'm going to pick off my ex-girlfriend. Then I'm going to get this 16-year-old to... I'm going to bet him, and then he's going to do my... I think she called him a puppet. I think that's what she'd say. My little puppet will do anything for me. So she knew.
She did. But, I bet he felt great after that. Wow.
Yeah. There you have it. There's a
Unreal.
6 lies and antifreeze for you right there. And antifreeze, I really don't. And I think it's a pretty painful death. I mean, I hate to say this, but you've heard of, like, dogs doing that.
Yes.
And I think... I think
seizures are involved.
It's sweet. And I think they've since changed the recipe of it, so it's not sweet because, like, animals would lick it. But and staying on the phone with him for 9 hours, the only reason she did that, she wanted to make sure it. She wanted to make sure it worked. Yeah. And, like, that whole angel thing that, you know, like, I don't know, that's messed up is what that is, let me tell you. Mm-hmm. Not to be too judgy, but I can judge, and that's messed up. So, yeah.
Unreal.
So on that note, Jen, have you been, this is a little shorter so we can, little chat, little banter. Mm-hmm. You've been watching it. I know that, didn't you watch the Duggar documentary?
I did. Shiny Happy People. It made me very angry.
I just can't. I haven't, I don't know. I just can't.
And there's a lot of it. I never watched the Duggars anyway. That whole situation, I just couldn't do it. I never liked Jim Bob. I never liked the mom, the oldest son. What's his name?
Is he the one that's in trouble?
The one that's in prison for child pornography? Or, I'm sorry, it's child sexual... What are they calling it now?
I know. It's like CSM. Something like that. Yeah. I don't know. It's not CSM, but something like that. Or, I don't know. Yeah.
They don't want to call it pornography because that can be consensual. Mm-hmm. He always gave me the creeps, and he always seemed dumber than a box of rocks. But that whole... And it always seemed like a cult. Sorry. And
it is, though, kind of.
It is a cult, but I never liked it. But the whole thing just made me totally angry.
Babies? That's tough, man. That's tough on your body. Mm-hmm. Like, talk about sneezing and, you know what happens, ladies, when you sneeze or cough. Come on. After that, there has to be no muscle down there at all.
And then to find out that the kids now get nothing. They did all those shows they didn't make a penny.
So what did the parents do with all the money? What'd they do with it?
Don't really think it's going. I think it just went back to his church and for him and all that kind of,
Weird.
Mm-hmm. I don't care for him, but it made me angry. Also watched the case of Natalia Grace.
You put me... What is that about? What? Let's talk about that. Let's break that down.
Okay, first of all, the adoptive father, what the hell? That's all I have to say. He's
I don't think the mom's much better.
No, well, they're both very unlikable. But the dad does he have a histrionic personality disorder? Is he just a really bad actor, or does he think he's a great
So what do you
it was hard to watch. It was really hard to watch.
Do you think she was...
I don't know what to think.
Yeah,
I
me
really
neither.
don't. I think there might be spoilers, so you guys, listen at your own risk.
Keep it, generic.
Yeah, but
go watch it.
If she was coached as the mom, as the mom is charged of doing, then no, I don't think, Well,
it seemed to me
I don't know.
Mom had a little Munchausen by proxy, a little bit something like, or maybe that's what I was thinking. Like she had a little bit of that, but
I think they just wanted to adopt a child, and then when it came out that how expensive it was going to be or how much work that they had to put into her.
Yeah, but then they got her an apartment. What? I don't know.
They had her re-aged. So instead of being like 13 or 14, that she was like legally 22 or something like that.
But she really wasn't. She was born exactly the same as my son. So she would be 20 today. So that's
right. That's what they said. But they had a doctor say that she was actually born in like 1989 or something like that. Something bizarre.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah.
Not
all right,
1989,
y'all.
but
all you listeners, go listen to that because we got to talk about
bizarre.
it.
And I there's a shocking scene in episode 5 where they just interviewed this man on the street, I guess, and he doesn't have a shirt on. And at first, I'm like, what the hell is this man being interviewed on TV without a shirt? I mean, it's not like local news or anything. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's national or probably international, to be honest. I'm like, I put it together, and it really kind of made me angry with the ID channel. Is the mom had claimed, or they had claimed, they put her in that area because it was a quote unquote white trash area. Ew. And I'm kind of thinking the ID channel maybe wanted to bring that home. And like, why wouldn't they give the guy a shirt? Why give the guy some dignity? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Was he homeless?
I don't know if he was homeless or if he was just like a neighbor. He lived in that
little
area,
apartment complex,
or in that area, which supposedly had people that take drugs, and they were.
But why would you put somebody there? I don't know. And then she kept running off to the neighbors, and they were bothered by that. But honestly, if you sat at home all day, she's bored. Right?
Well, that was the second house that she was moved into, was the quote unquote white trash neighborhood. That was the second one. The first one was in a better neighborhood. Maybe
they were hoping something would happen to her.
Maybe. I don't know. But I was really disappointed with ID when they kind of treated that man poorly. And of course, like, he had a herniated belly button, so he had like a huge...
Oh, that guy. Yeah, because I sent you and I was like, what is wrong with that?
Right. It's a herniated belly button. So not only did they not give the guy a shirt, but they filmed it so you were looking up and you could see that. You know what I mean? It wasn't... give the man dignity. Come on. They should have known better for that.
Maybe he doesn't wear a shirt because it hurts. Like if it rubs against it.
I don't think that's it.
I'm just saying.
They should have, if they wouldn't have given the man the shirt, they should have at least filmed it in a better position. Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It made me angry. At first I was like, oh my God, and like kind of giggling and stuff. And I'm like, well, MFer. This is what, it's the ID channel, Yeah. But it's the most bizarre story ever. I mean, really I don't know what to believe. I want to side with the adoptive daughter, Natalia, but there's so many questions and loopholes that I don't know what to believe. I really don't.
That 911 call where she, I guess, called and like told on herself that she wanted to hurt somebody. I thought that was weird.
But the mother, like, supposedly brainwashed her into saying all that kind of stuff.
The mother had a little Munchausen by proxy.
Right.
She had a little something going on too. I don't know. It's weird. It's all messed up. Go check it out, people.
I don't know. Go check it out and then email us and tell us what you think, or join our True Crime Podcast discussion page on Facebook.
Do that.
And start, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Let's figure it out. But it is the most bizarre thing.
It really is.
Unreal. But what about you? You watching anything else? I know you are, but...
Yeah, so much, but nothing I can think of. Nothing that great anymore.
Yeah, I finished Yellow Jackets. Last
What'd you
season was
think?
totally great. This season, I'm like, did it jump the shark already? I mean, do I care about the characters anymore? I don't know.
I gave up in the first season. I was just like, I didn't
know.
get where it was going. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It still didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But will I watch the third season? Probably the first couple episodes, but if it doesn't advance, I'm not.
Yeah.
It's not going to be. But
I'm
I
waiting
liked
for-
Elijah Wood in this season.
Oh, he's cute. I like him. I am patiently waiting for the rest of Yellowstone to come out because I feel like I'm in, hovering here, figuring out what's going on with them. I think that's supposed to happen. I guess the people are having some fights, some infighting, if you will.
Yeah.
So, but I'm waiting for that. Can't wait.
Yeah, there's something else that's coming out that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. That's going to start.
Oh, I did watch Bama Rush. Did we talk about that? The sorority rush?
No.
We didn't talk about that on here. Ooh, girl, go check out Bama Rush.
I was going to start it, but I'm like, after that Natalia Grace and that train wreck, I don't know if I could do another train wreck.
It is a train wreck.
Yeah.
Just because, wow, it's just a different, I don't even know, like a whole paying people to train you to get in a sorority, to pay a lot of money. I don't know. It's just weird. And I know that is, I respect the history of it, I guess. You know what I mean? Like going back to, I don't know. Go watch it. It's something. Bama Rush. It's on HBO Max or HBO Plus or whatever that is.
It's just Max now.
Oh, I'm sorry, Max. Just Max.
Yeah, it was from
Max.
HBO, then HBO Max, and then they dropped the HBO. It's kind of like John Cougar Mellencamp. Now it's John Mellencamp. Yeah.
They should have kept the HBO in there, if you ask me, because that's HBO.
You'd think. I mean, it's been how long that they've...
That's HBO. Because Max, you know what I think about?
Since 82.
Max, you know what I think about? Back
Cinemax?
Skinemax. That's right.
Yeah, because that's where all the... PG-17 stuff.
All the people that are our age, when you had the box and you could see the porn movies or softcore porn through the squiggles on the TV. You know what I'm talking about?
That you would watch the scrambled TV.
Yeah, scrambled. There you go.
Yeah, like Lady Chatterley's Lover. Yeah, all that softcore pornography.
The Red Shoe Diaries. Wasn't it Red Shoe Diaries? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All that good stuff.
Those were the days. Those were the days.
God bless Skinemax.
It's a junior high kid trying to sneak a little softcore porn.
Get us a little education. Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that.
We didn't have the internet back then. It's the best we could do. So.
God. I think we were better for it too, let me tell you.
Sure we are.
No, I think we are. Like these guys today, it's crazy. But anyway, I guess we can wrap it up now. Anything else we want to tell the good people? You want to tell us where we're going to be in August in Austin? August?
I think I've told them enough. Maybe they'd like to hear it from you.
We're going to Austin in August. That's all I know. You're my husband. Like I'm
your Vicky from the Love Boat. You're social.
You are my Vicky. Yes, you are.
We will be in Austin, Texas for True Crime Podcast Festival at the end of August. I think the 25th and 26th, somewhere around there. You can go to truecrimepodcastfestival.com and check it out. But yes, come out to see us. We would love to meet you, and we'll buy you a drink.
Jen will buy you a drink. I'm poor. Jen will buy you a drink. It's all drinks on Jen. Drinks all around. Jen.
It's gonna be water, but it's a drink. But
water with ice or without. It's your choice. Depends. All right.
If you're nice enough, I'll get you with ice.
Yeah. Ice. I love ice. Okay. Until then, remember, lock your door.
And keep passing by those open windows.
Bye-bye.
Love ya.
Today's episode was researched and written by me, Cam. For more information about this episode, as well as all the sources I used, please check out our show notes or the podcast website at ourtruecrimepodcast.com. Our True Crime Podcast is developed and created by hosts Jen and Cam. Original music and audio mix of all our True Crime Podcast episodes is courtesy of Nico Vertesi from We Talk of Dreams. Listener discretion is provided by Edward October from October Pod VHS. Our True Crime Podcast is executive produced by Nico Vertesi and Dick Bain. Make sure to like and subscribe to Our True Crime Podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. We can be reached on Instagram and Facebook at Our True Crime Podcast or on Twitter at Our True Crime Pod. You can email us at ourtruecrimepodcast@gmail.com. If you really like the show, make sure to check out our Patreon at Our True Crime Podcast. Our True Crime Podcast is an OTC production.